The Lunaverse, Episode 3, by Rainbow Double Dash. Chapter 3, Learning Curve. After a series of bumbling attempts to make it upstairs, Lyra learned a few things about her current body, which essentially boiled it down to it somehow being awful at navigating upstairs. Lyra wasn't sure it was because she was thinking about it too much, or because the stairs were made for a quadruple pony half her height, or what. But she slid twice trying to climb down with two legs. She blamed it partially on her hoofless feet and paws. Hands. Whatever. Regardless, it was a miracle that she didn't slip and break her neck, which she was pretty sure would be considered bad no matter what body she was in. She made a point of ignoring the fact that the bath was actually easy to handle. Whatever had happened to her front feet, whatever creature she had become, it was obvious that her paws were made for grabbing and manipulating things, and they were almost as good as unicorn telekinesis in that respect. She had no problem turning the faucet to start the shower water flowing. Drying off would be an interesting experience, though. She had no idea how she was supposed to use what was now a tiny towel to that effect. Not to mention the cramped quarters to Trixie's bathroom had already meant she was mostly kneeling in the shower as she scrubbed off the paint. At least the bathroom had only one small window with its curtain already drawn. No Pegasus pony would be flying by and chancing upon the sight of a pale-skinned monster taking a shower. Once she washed the paint off and used a couple of towels to dry herself, she chanced another glance at herself in the mirror. She couldn't be precisely sure, but she was fairly confident that the face that was looking at her back at her was not happy. "I don't believe this," she intoned as she began trying to navigate her way down the stairs. It was easiest, she found, as she simply sat down and scooted down them one step at a time. "And of course, it would be today. You couldn't have turned me into a... Lyra paused in her descent, looking herself over. "A naked bear?" she asked. "No, even bears have muzzles and tails." With a sigh, she resumed her descent. "Couldn't have been tomorrow. Couldn't have been yesterday. No." A notable part of Lyra pointed out that she was the one who had been stupid enough to agree to her transmutation ritual only a few hours before her show in Canterlot, that it wasn't like Trixie had the book on loan from somewhere, and that this whole thing most certainly could have waited until tomorrow, and it was Lyra's own fault that they hadn't. Lyra told her that part of herself to go to the sun around the same time that her stomach grumbled. She was getting hungry. Lyra made her way into Trixie's kitchen, then paused, arms once more crossed, as he considered the room and the food she knew was inside. "Okay," she intoned. "What do I eat now?" Fluttershy's day, so far, was wonderful. She had a great and full breakfast with her animal friends, written a letter to her family back in Cloudsdale, and sent it off with Dizzy Doo, while also spending some time chatting to the mailmare, who was one of her two best, and admittedly only, friends. Dizzy Doo looked like she had needed a brief break at her house, too. She worked so hard for Dinky Doo, her only little foal. Or not really so little anymore. The Pegasus pony smiled as she went outside. Foals grow up so fast, which, Fluttershy supposed, was only putting extra strain on Ditsy. She had tried, several times, to work up the nerve to offer financial help to Ditsy Doo, but never been able to go through with it. Fluttershy's pleasant thoughts were interrupted when she saw the door to her chicken coop area was open. "Oh my goodness!" she exclaimed, wings fluttering to lend her extra speed as she dashed over to it. "Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! How did this happen? How long was it open?" The coop was quite warm, she knew, as long as the door was kept closed, but if it somehow opened up during the middle of the night, the sound of them all squawking and chirping in panic, however, put even more speed in behind her step. "Mr. Fox!" Fluttershy exclaimed as loudly as she could. "If you broke into my chicken coop after how nice I've been to you, I'll... Fluttershy hadn't been entirely certain of what she'd do if the fox had tried to get to her chickens once more, but on reaching the chicken coop and looking inside, she found a distinct lack of foxes. What she did find was a chicken suspended several feet off the coop's floor, wrapped in an unearthly cerulean aura as it flapped and cawed like mad. A voice said, "Nobody in here but us chickens." Fluttershy stared. "Us smelly, loud chickens," the voice said. Fluttershy stared. Are you okay? Fluttershy stared. The chicken began advancing, slowly hovering toward Fluttershy. There was a sound of hoofsteps on the ramp that led to the chicken coop. A few moments later, a large cloud of blue smoke seemed to appear from nowhere. It just as quickly flowed away in the slight breeze, revealing a blue-coated, purple-eyed unicorn pony, wearing a purple star-studded cape and matching wizard's hat. The unicorn raised the hoof slowly, waving it in Fluttershy's face. Fluttershy stared. Okay, the unicorn said, looking behind her. She closed the chicken coop's door securely, then reached out with telekinesis and lifted Fluttershy, then brought the Pegasus back to her home, where she set her down inside. The unicorn said, still holding the still squawking chicken forward. I have to borrow this, chicken. Borrow. Every intended to return. After a moment of waiting for a response, the unicorn shrugged. Nice talking to you? The unicorn turned around, closed Fireside door, and left, galloping back toward Ponyville. Stupid! Useless! Pause! Lyra exclaimed as he continued trying to unscrew the jar of honey, to no avail. If she had a horn, it would have been easy. She just worked the ethereal energy of her telekinesis under the cap. It might have taken a few moments, but the jar would have been open by now. But these paws, hands, whatever, were useless! Trying to open the jar with what constituted normal pressure in her new body hadn't worked. Trying to apply more, it just made her hands get sweaty. The sweat made it more difficult to open the jar. She didn't understand how hands could be so great at fine manipulation and so useless at it at the same time. Fine! Lyra exclaimed after a moment, glaring at the jar of honey before setting it back where she found it. I won't have any then! Lyra glanced at the pantry, looking it over before settling on the bread box. That, at least, was easy to open, as she found a loaf of pre-sliced bread inside. She sniffed it a few times, found that it wasn't offensive to her nose, and took a bite out of it, chewing and considering. Well, whatever her new body considered a normal diet, it didn't react violently to bread. That was probably a good sign. She grabbed several more slices, and then set to work experimenting with various ingredients. Hay? No. Daffodils? No. Alfalfa? Most certainly not. Lyra managed to make it to Trixie's bed and spit out the alfalfa she tried to eat before her new body took it upon herself to throw up. Lettuce? Yes. Tomatoes? Yes. Cheese? Still good. Pickles? Just fine. No, pickles will never be fine, Lyra. They will never be fine. Good, Lyra decided as he finished assembling a pair of sandwiches and bit into them. I won't have to starve. Or kill somebody. That was a major piece of good news. Like many bears, it seemed that whatever Lyra was now, it was omnivorous, as he wouldn't have to become some horrible monster living in the Everfree, stalking and killing animals for their meat. Of course, she said as he took an experimental bite out of a pear and found it fine. I won't have to do that anyway, because I'm not going to stay like this. Lyra set her pear down on a plate, on which she set her sandwiches as well, and made her way into Trixie's living room, sitting down on the floor and grabbing the translated zebra spellbook, beginning to look it over as she ate, trying to find out what went wrong. And the first thing, she decided as she flipped through the book, was that whoever translated the spells, but not translated the magic words, had made a huge mistake in deciding not to include a translation for them anywhere. The former unicorn, now naked bear or whatever, grit her teeth as she paged through the book with one paw, hand, or whatever. Even if the magic words somehow lost their power if spoken into Equestrian, the translators should have at least included a translation somewhere, an appendix or something. Okay, Lyra said, turning back to the spell that started this mess. Okay. Wewe ni bidamu. That phrase keeps coming up, so it's got to be important. She considered it's probably like the core of the spell, right? She flipped to the first failed counterspot spell. Wewe ni tena paduruma. Okay, so that Wewe ni keeps popping up. Lyra paused. She turned to another transformational spell. This one supposedly how to turn a zebra into a bird. The phrase, Wewe ni nids, stood out immediately. Flipping through the book again, she found a counterspell for that one. She found the last lines of the magic words were nearly identical to the last lines of the initial counterspell. Wewe ni antena net, kuna pudurama tena. Okay, Lyra said, finding another spell, this time turning a zebra into a snake. Strewn throughout its incantations were the phrase, Wewe ni nikua. And turning to its counterspell, she found the lines, Wewe ni tena nikua, kua pudurama tena. Okay, Lyra repeated. Okay. So if I were guessing, Wewe ni whatever has to mean something like turn into this. Wewe ni tena, whatever it is stop being this. And Kura Panuna Tena is... Lyra paused as she considered. On a hunch, she began pacing through the spellbook, finally finding a spell that would turn a dog into a cat. Sure enough, the phrase Wewe ni Paka was found. When she turned to its counterspell, however, the phrase Kua Pudurama Tena had been replaced with Kua Mumba Tena. Pudura means zebra, Lyra reasoned, as she turned once again to the spell that had started this entire mess. The word Padumna was nowhere to be found, anywhere, in the spell that was supposed to turn a unicorn into a zebra. Great, Lyra said with a sigh, putting down the spell book and finishing her pear and second sandwich. So all the steps in the spell were fine. We were just casting the wrong spell. And the counterspell didn't work because I wasn't a zebra. So of course a spell turning me back from a zebra to a pony wouldn't work. She eyed the spell book, the magic words that made up the spell. This is why I hate you. She informed it when she heard the door burst open. The former unicorn let out a yelp as she tumbled down her malformed front and hind legs, trying to dash and hide behind something. Succeeding just as a blue-coated, white-maned unicorn dashed into the living room, an incensed-looking chicken in her telekinetic grasp. Lyra! Trixie exclaimed with pants for breath, looking right at Lyra's hiding spot behind the couch. The former unicorn poked her head up at the sound. In response, Trixie pushed the chicken forward, showing Lyra, Chicken! Lyra stared at Trixie, then glanced at the clock. It read 12:45. 20 minutes? She asked. You... Gelving... Try... Hate! Trixie heaved, swaying back and forth a few moments before letting herself fall into her side. Lyra stood to help, but Trixie waved her away even as she did, barrel heaving. Her horn still glowed, though, holding the chicken suspended in the air. It was still flapping and cawing madly. The unicorn, and the thing that once had been a unicorn, did their best to ignore it. Lyra shook her head at Trixie's objection. No, I mean, I'm impressed. I thought it'd be nearly 1 o'clock before you make it back. Oh, well, no, back now. Lyra considered a moment, biting her lip. A remarkably pony-like action as she considered Trixie. It's not your fault, she said after a moment. What happened? I mean, I was pacing through the spell book, and I think the spell was mislabeled or something. I don't think it was ever going to turn me into a zebra, so it's not your fault. Yay! But that's a pretty big oversight. Who translated it? Don't know, Trixie admitted as she climbed onto her hose and half-trod and half-stumbled to the spell book, looking down on it. Some pony who clearly needs to brush up on their zebra. I'll tell the Luna to fire them, she considered. She paused. With real fire. She frowned. She won't listen, but I'll tell her. Lyra nodded. So, zebra cure-all then, right? She said. How does that work? Trixie sighed, looking to the chicken. As did Lyra. The chicken paused in its flapping and cawing, looking back. Fluttershy is never going to forgive us, Lyra said as he plucked the last of the feathers from the chicken's back. Held in place as the chicken was by Trixie's telekinesis, it was incapable of stopping Lyra as he put her fingers to use. I'm never going to forgive us. This chicken didn't do anything to deserve this. Fluttershy doesn't even know you're involved, Trixie noted, and feathers grow back. She considered her orders for a few moments, looking to Lyra. Right? How should I know? Because you grew up in Ponyville, Trixie. I've never seen a real-life chicken in my life before today! Lyra grimaced as the hen continued squawking in defiance. And now I'm plugging the poor thing! Not all of it, just from the back. I still feel bad. Trixie nodded, eyeing Lyra. The spell says the chicken feathers have to have been plucked within 2 hours of casting, so that's why I didn't have them ready. Makes sense, Lyra intoned as he gathered the plucked feathers and began laying them around as a second magic circle. Just inside the first one, she looked at the chicken. What now? Trixie considered, moving the bird onto the floor and staring at her. Horn glowing brighter as the unicorn's eyes seemed to turn to spirals for a few moments. The chicken, staring back due to not having any other choice, stopped calling, blinking a few times before settling down, tucking its head into its wings, and going to sleep. Lyra blinked a few times as Trixie leaned back to the chicken, shaking her head to clear it. You know a spell for putting chickens to sleep? She asked, making a face. Enchantment such as the one Trixie had just cast could never be applied to any given creature, due to major differences in how brains work. Trixie looked at Lyra, shrugging. I do now. Lyra stared. You made up a spell on the fly? She stated. Trixie shook her head. No, I just took a sleep spell that I did know and changed it to work on chickens. On the fly. Trixie blinked a few times. Yeah, she said so it were obvious and easy. She pointed to her cutie mark. Special talent. Lyra grunted a little. So glad you didn't actually go to the academy. She said, you would have been hated by the every pony, but especially me. Trixie shrugged, trotting over from where she had left the hen into the spell book, frowning as she read. Okay, she said. Magic circle of salt this time. Candles, chicken feathers, silver. We need a pound of silver inside the circles. A bit coin is about a third of an ounce. Lyra noted. Trixie grimaced at that, leaving Lyra alone in the kitchen for a few moments as she went to her office and her desk there, opening the bottom drawer and retrieving a bag full of bits. Returning, she began counting out silver pieces and then laid them in a pile at the center of the magic circle. Okay. Silver. What? Turning me back into a unicorn isn't worth a few bits? It's worth 48 bits, not a few, and yes, it is worth it, but I wish it didn't have to be. Lyra shrugged. I guess I can understand. So anyway, silver. Let's see. Ash photo flowers wrapped around quartz crystals and soaked in iron oil. Who came up with these? Lyra demanded. I mean, our magic is right there in front of us. Learning how to use it is like learning to speak, you know. But how the heck did some zebra come up with all this? Who looks at a perfectly good flower and thinks, I'm going to wrap that up and soak it in oil and say some ridiculous junk? I don't know, Trixie admitted as he finished dipping the flowers into the oil and put them into the magical circle. Last but not least, the pony we're trying to cure. Lyra stepped into the magic circle, careful not to disturb it as she did so, and stood in place, arms crossed. No paint this time? She asked. Trixie shook her head. No. Okay, here we go. Mara tatu paka brenda wa satori. Mara tatu ma na para mavosora nore kuita. Makasiya alano ni wakatari, pade sote sofera kadrida, katia matombo, suma katupa, tura kawamba tini wa yabata ture, siku betuna na usuko na telano mante manmota, jaso suma kirura alale, Sisma wewe kasana Kafka Sosuro Ugunda Mara Mumbumi Mibili Tabuma Sitita Mupto Makachuma Chikazi. Okay, this time people, I'm not going to give you a translation of what she just said in a previous paragraph. Just go to the link below and check it out yourself on chapter 3 for what she just said and use Google Translate because it's just hilarious. Lyra blinked. She may not have had a horn, but she could still feel the magic beginning to work as she stood in the center of the circle. She couldn't help but smile. Yes, okay, this day has been interesting, but this was about to end. She was about to be turned back into a unicorn, and this whole mess would just become some funny stories she could tell at parties in the future. Kapande, Chakawa Nikola, Kamosa, Visa, Wa, Kiata, Sofira, Kimisha, Napikapuka, Yiko, La Medusi, Latoria, Lechura, Pama, Yapomo, Nayomoko, Wa Mumba, Uma, Fiera, Nimi, Nomo, Kyubo, Kuuma, Mukugo, Medusi, Namubundi, Ma Migrano, Kawadi, Agiga, La Yatama, Saya Tabu, Naviguto, Kama, Mishuki, Kuonzo, Kisumo, de Rakamisha, Mibili, Tabuji no Sisa, Moto Kashima, Nasafira, Kamasha. The air was visibly glowing now. A silver fog as the silver coins and oil-soaked and fire-wrapped quartz coins dissolved into the mist that rose straight up, completely filling the magic circle. Lyra held her breath. Come on, she urged mentally. Come on, come on, come on. Mara, Mibili, Tabu no Shita, Moto Kuchira no Seferas Kamasa. There was a flash, and the mist suddenly burst down from the magic circle, becoming a long line. It soared around the kitchen as Lyra and Trixie watched. Its argent form whipped and forth, aiming straight for Lyra, and at the last moment it turned, and instead plunged into the still sleeping hen. Needless to say, the hen woke up, eyes glowing brightly, as she was lifted off the ground, arcane power pouring into her, filling her up. There was a second flash. Then the hen landed, shaking itself slightly, except it was now slightly larger, and sported a much more impressive-looking comb and wattle. As if to emphasize what had just happened, the former hen stood up proudly and let out, "Cock-a-doodle-doo!" Trixie and Lyra stared at the rooster, and the rooster stared back at them. So, I'm guessing that it wasn't the turn unicorns into zebra spells that were just mislabeled then. Oh! Chapter 4. Insecurities. It was 1:17 p.m., and there was a unicorn, something that might have been a naked bear, and a whole lot of panic in the residency of the representative of the Night Court of Luna. There was also a hen-turned-rooster, but he seemed to tug her out from his new predicament, and so settled down into the corner of the kitchen in order to go back to sleep. "What are we going to do?" Lyra demanded, running her paws to remain. "If that spell was mislabeled and the original spell was mislabeled, how many others were? And who did the translating?" "I don't know!" Trixie exclaimed. "The Luna herself gave me the book, so I just assumed everything was fine. Wouldn't you?" "Not anymore!" Lyra exclaimed, then did the most peculiar thing without thinking about it. She placed two of her fingers together, the shortest one to the longest, and flicked them against one another, making a snapping noise. She pointed to Trixie. "Luna!" she exclaimed. "The princess has more magic in one hoof than every zebra and Zebrega combined. She has to be able to help me. You have to get in contact with her." "I can't." "Trixie, this is not the time for you to be worried about what Luna will think of—" "No, Lyra, I mean, I literally can't. Luna isn't in Canterlot right now. She is in the Griffin Kingdoms. With Corona back, she's extending a hoof to all our neighbors, and making sure that if Corona attacks again, they won't pounce on Equestria or one of her allies while we're in the middle of fighting, nor support Corona if she does manage to take the throne somehow." Lyra was stunned at the statement. "Who would support Corona?" "Corona is a beard outside of Equestria. Not as much, anyway. The point is, I can't get in contact with Luna for the next week. My letter-sending spell, it only teleports things to her office in Canterlot, not her directly. We might have to wait till Luna gets back." "Trixie, I can't wait a week. I have a show tonight. Tonight! My first solo show. I can't miss it." Trixie shook her head. "I don't think there's much of a choice." Lyra moved up to Trixie, getting down onto her hands and knees so she could look at the unicorn in the eye. "I can not miss this," she stated in a voice that would brook no argument. Trixie argued anyway. "It's not even really your first show," Trixie pointed out. "Back during the longest night you played, remember? I played a single tune for 5 minutes on a night which no pony is going to remember for the music," Lyra stated. This is for the incoming students for both the Academy and the Canterlot School of Music Arts. It's showing off the dual study program and the results of it. A lot of very important ponies are going to be expecting me there. Important to the music industry and important to me." I don't care what it takes. If I have to go like this, then I will. Trixie blunched. I don't think that's a good idea. No, Trixie, it's not. But I'll do it anyway if I have to. The unicorn looked away from the former unicorn. In the corner, the rooster let out a slight noise in its sleep, one wing twitching slightly. Okay, Trixie said after a long while, looking to the zebra spellbook and levitating it to her side. We know that the spells in here work. They're just mislabeled. But they work, meaning that the counter spell has to be in here somewhere. It would be a lot easier if one of us could read zebra. Trixie grimaced. But not every spell is mislabeled, Trixie pointed out. They can't all have been mislabeled. No pony is criminally negligent, so I think we need to take another tack with this. We need to find out what you are. Bidamu, Lyra said. Gesundheit. Lyra rolled her eyes, taking the spellbook and flipping it to the original spell, then holding it to Trixie. Wewe ni Bidamu. All the transmutation and counter-transmutation spells have Wewe ni, and then something. I think basically it's turned into this thing, and the thing I turned into in Zebra is called a Binamu. Trixie read, then smiled brightly. Hey, Trixie exclaimed, that's perfect! So all we have to do is go through this and find all the spells with the word Binamu in it. One of them has to be the counterspell. Trixie looked at the spellbook, as did Lyra. They considered the thick volume for several minutes. Out of 400 spells, Lyra noted. Bon looked at the clock on the wall of her candy shop. When 12:30 rolled around and Lyra hadn't shown up to pick her things, she had been concerned. When it had been 12:50, too late to consider trying to catch the 1 o'clock to Canterlot, she had grown to be worried. But she didn't let that worry overtake her. Lyra was a grown mare and was perfectly capable of looking at a clock and knowing what time it was. She would be aware of them missing 1 o'clock to Ponyville, knew the risk, and was perfectly capable of running her own life, and, somehow, Bon managed to convince her of the same thing when the clock struck 3. When the clock struck 3:30, however, Bon left worry behind and passed into anxiety. Enough so that she was certainly certain she misread a scale and accidentally let a bag of jelly babies go at over just half the price. The stallion who bought them just hadn't certainly minded. Where is she? Who? Her current customer, an orange surf pony named Rickshaw, asked, even as he finished giving her the bits for the toffee he was buying. Bon blinked a few times at the question, then shook her head. No, pony. Sorry, I'm distracted. Rickshaw let Bon's concern go at that, finishing his purchase and leaving. With him gone from the store, it was now empty. Biting her lip, the earth pony trotted over to her store's door and switched the sign on from open to closed, locking it, then turning around and heading upstairs. She would grab Lyra's things, head over to Trixie's, and no matter what interesting spell they were in the middle of, make sure that Lyra was on the next and last train to Canterlot. This is interesting, Trixie noted as he read the spell book. Poison joke is an ingredient in this spell. It's called the Truth is a Scourge, some kind of truth serum, except... Trixie's eyes scanned the page as she read the description. Oh, that is so mean. I love it! Will it turn me back into a unicorn? Lyra asked with a forceful lightness as he paged through a different book. Trixie blushed slightly, glancing up at the former pony. Not so much, no. Lyra glared at her. Trixie quickly turned the page, looking at the next spell, though not before using telekinesis to indent the Truth as a Scourge. It was, assuming that it had been correctly labeled, more of a potion than a spell, and one that she was going to try out. Assuming Lyra didn't steal the Zebra spellbook and burn it into ashes after this whole deal was finished. The two were sitting in Trixie's office. Given that there was only one book, only one of them could be looking for the occurrences of the word Binamu at the time, a task that had fallen to Trixie. Lyra, meanwhile, had been managing something else, using the limited number of books in Trixie's collection, specifically a tome on strange and exotic creatures, the monster manual. Oh, I've got that. I bought it from the Barnes & Noble or Company to try and find out just what he had turned into. So far, neither source had given them results. That's? Lyra wondered aloud, before noticing the 3 R's of the description. So he continued flipping through the page. Grimlock? No, they don't have eyes. Troll? No, not from 4chan. Ogre? Maybe. Why isn't this in here? Ha! Got one! Trixie exclaimed suddenly. In less than a second, Lyra had dropped the monster manual and was now next to Trixie, looking over her shoulder. Poison of the Wind Spider. Lyra read the spell's name aloud. I don't like the spell already, Trixie. It's mislabeled, Trixie said with certainty, as he read through the ingredients and ritual, and nothing about it suggests spiders or poison or wind. Oh yeah? And what about silver, quartz, and chicken feathers? Suggests gender change! Point, Trixie admitted, before pointing out the mat and sick words with one hoof. But look here, Bidamu. That's the word we're looking for, right? Lyra thought, assuming that zebra to unicorn spell is accurate. Secure confirmed after a moment. I mean, I think, right? Probably? Trixie looked at Lyra. You're asking me? Lyra sighed, pointing to Trixie's flank. Special talent, she remarked. Trixie considered. It's worth a shot, she said, standing and stretching as she read the ingredients. Okay, from the looks of things, I'm going to have to go out and buy some of these things. I'm out of quartz for one thing, and I don't have any linen lying around either. Bed sheets, Lyra pointed out. Trixie opened her mouth to object, but thought better of it a moment later when she saw the look on Lyra's face. Well, I don't have quartz, she said, looking back to the ingredient list, or enough coal dust to make another magic circle, so I have to... There was a sound on the door, the front door opening. Hello? A bear's voice called from the residency's hallway. Lyra. Lyra opened her mouth to respond, and at almost the same time put one paw and hoof, hand, whatever, to her mouth to stop herself. She tried to scramble backwards and hide behind something, even as her muscles locked up into familiar-sounding voice. For some reason, there was a flash of blue. The net result of all of this was that Lyra found herself on the floor, staring at the entrance to the living room as Bonbon came into view, wearing saddlebags. Her eyes gilded over Lyra, passed over her, and settled on Trixie. Bonbon! Hi? Bonbon looked around as if nothing was wrong, as if seeing a giant naked bear, or whatever, was a normal thing for her. Hello, Trixie, she said, her voice lacking most of its usual sweetness as she looked at the unicorn. Where's Lyra? Lyra blinked a few times, still frozen in place in shock. Couldn't Bonbon see her? Wasn't she curious about the hideous giant creature that does happen to have the same eyes and mane colorings as her mare friend? Oh, Trixie responded, waving a hoof. She's, I don't know where she is. We wrapped everything up a few minutes ago. Must have just missed her. Lyra made to pick herself up, to move into a more comfortable position. Bonbon jumped at the sound of the floorboards squeaking, but oddly, still didn't look at her. It was only then that Lyra realized that she couldn't look at herself. She looked to her forelegs, barrel, hind legs, but all she saw was the living room, no trace of her. They were invisible, but Lyra's brow nevertheless rose as he realized that what the blue flash from moments ago must have been. Way to go, Trixie, she thought, impressed. She had known that Trixie knew how to turn herself invisible. She hadn't known that she knew how to turn other ponies invisible as well, nor expected her to be able to do such a thing so quickly. What was that? Bonbon asked at the sound of floorboards. Probably just the house... Sibling? Trixie lied. Houses do that. Bonbon eyed Trixie. There's no need to be condescending. Trixie traced a circle on the floor with one hoof. Right. Sorry. Bonbon blinked at the apology, and the fact that Trixie wasn't looking directly at her. All right, she said, stomping forward. What have you done with Lyra? Nothing! Trixie continued, moving as though to back away, then realizing it was all that would do was push her against Lyra, who couldn't move without creating more out-of-place noises. She held up her hooves. She's not here. She left! Oh, really? Bonbon demanded as he got close to Trixie. The unicorn's eyes wandered everywhere other than the meeting the pony's own. Trixie, where is Lyra? I don't know, Trixie exclaimed. Then why are you being so evasive? Trixie tapped a hoof on the floor. I heard you two a few weeks ago and that was really awkward! Bonbon blinked. Lyra did too. Trixie, for her part, focused on the floor, her face having begun turned from blue to a very rosy shade of pink. Hurt us? Bonbon asked, not understanding. This after Corona did her thing, Trixie explained haughtily. That night, remember how my house had the consistency of Scarosland cheese? Well, I was looking for a place to stay, and I went to your place, and I heard you. And Lyra. She tapped her front hose together, flushing furiously at this point. Together. By now, Bonbon had turned a similar shade of pink as Trixie, and while Lyra could feel the heat on her own face as she looked away, rubbing her left arm with her right in embarrassment. Oh, yeah, Trixie offered. I see. I heard. It was really loud. I almost filed a noise complaint. We weren't that loud. Lyra ejected, then gasped. She had both her paws covering her mouth in shock at what she had just said, while she contemplated whether or not being turned into a naked bear, or whatever, had somehow affected her judgment and ability not to be a moron. There was a long pause. Bonbon stared at Trixie. Trixie shook her head slowly, looking to Lyra, eyes meeting with the former unicorn's own. Thank you, she said through gritted teeth. And yes, you were, she added quickly, just before Bonbon grasped Trixie with her forehooves and turned to the unicorn to face her once again, glaring at her. Trixie, she demanded. Was that Lyra? The unicorn's eyes were wide. Yes? And why can't I see her? Trixie glanced at Lyra. She is invisible, she said. Well, not to me. Of course not to me. Cast an invisibility spell on somebody and they can't see through it. That's just asking for trouble. But to every pony else. Lyra stared at Trixie. Yes, Lyra confirmed. I needed help with zebra spells, Trixie continued. The princess asked me to try and understand their magic, and I needed Lyra's help with that. Bonbon glared at Trixie. The princess, Trixie replied, as her horn glowed, and she telekinetically brought the zebra spellbook over. And so I thought I'd cast the spell on Lyra, with her permission, and now we can't figure out how to cancel it. Bonbon blinked. Lyra, is this true? She asked. Yeah, Lyra responded, most truthfully. There had even been a zebra spell cast on her. It had been with her permission, and he couldn't figure out how to counter it. The only untruth was that Trixie's word made it sound like it was the invisibility spell that couldn't be countered. It's not Trixie's fault. She did this to you? Bonbon said, releasing Trixie and looking toward Lyra, though her eyes were slightly too far to the right and a bit too low. Lyra moved so that way she was looking at him. How is that not her fault? We don't know much about the zebra language, Trixie responded. A lot of the spells in this book have been mislabeled, so we can't find the counterspell. Bonbon shook her head. It's still your fault, she said, turning to Trixie again. You knew she had a show tonight, and yet you did this! Why couldn't any of this wait? Why couldn't you risk something happening to her? Trixie's mouth opened and closed a few times, as he looked between Bonbon and Lyra. Lyra! She exclaimed. Help! Lyra grimaced. Bonbon does kind of raise a good point. Trixie glared at Lyra. You consented! It was not my fault, and I am trying to fix it! I get that, Lyra said, holding up her hands. Apparently Trixie could see her, so the gesture wasn't wasted. But you shouldn't have asked me, and I should have said yes. There's a lot of blame to go around. Trixie glared at Lyra, before her eyes widened at the sight of Bon reaching a hoof forward, trying to find Lyra. She grabbed the Earth Pony's hoof with two of her own, letting out a nervous laugh. uh, Bonbon, don't touch Lyra. Bonbon's lip could have curdled milk. Trixie, let go of me before I... No! Lyra said, thinking quickly for the sake of keeping Trixie's teeth inside her jaws. If Bonbon touched her, she noticed a change in Lyra's body immediately. No, Bonbon, it's some magic thing. It's a spell gone wrong. Earth pony magic might interact with the zebra magic in weird ways. We don't know what to do. Bad things, probably. Terrible things. Unspeakable things. Like, turn me into some kind of naked bear. Unspeakable! Trixie finished. Things. Lyra once more found her hands covering her mouth in shock. Apparently, she did not handle stress nearly as well as the other unicorn in the room. Trixie was hardly the most collected of ponies to start with. Bonbon, at least, had no idea what Lyra just let slip, and looked between Trixie and where she thought Lyra was. I don't believe this! She shouted. Look, Trixie said, grimacing. We just need to find the right counterspell. Here. She held up the zebra book, handing out to Bonbon. In my office top drawer, there's a bag of bits. Grab it, then go out and buy everything on this list of ingredients. Bonbon stared at the book. And this will work? She asked. Yes, Trixie lied. Or maybe she was telling the truth. Lyra hoped that circumstances would prove that she was telling the truth after all. Bonbon took the zebra spellbook in her front hooves, looking the ingredient list over. I can't remember all this, she objected. I'll need to... Trixie grimaced, closing her eyes and letting her horn glow. There was a pair of blue flashes, from Trixie's horn and Bonbon's eyes. The Earth Pony blinked a few times after them, looking to Trixie in confusion. What was the fourth ingredient? Trixie asked. Apple skin, she answered. All I did was glance at the page. What did you do to me? You'll perfectly remember the page for about a day, that's all, Trixie said, holding up her hose defensively. I need to keep the book so I can start memorizing the spell's words. Bonbon stepped closer to Trixie. Don't cast spells on ponies without their permission. I'm sorry, I assumed that permission was a given since we're talking about making Lyra visible again for her Canterlot show. Bonbon opened her mouth to shout something, then saw the clock on the wall. It was 3:49. There was only one more train leaving for Ponyville to Canterlot today. To 5 o'clock. It would be Lyra's last chance to reach Canterlot in time for her show. It was leaving in just over an hour. All right, Bonbon said. Okay, I'll go. I'll buy the ingredients. But we are going to have words, Trixie, when this is all over. With that, the Earth Pony turned around, dashing to Trixie's office. In another few moments, she was out the door, bag full of bits clasped in her mouth. Lyra visited, as Trixie turned to glare at her. What's the point of making you invisible if you're going to talk? She demanded. I'm sorry, Lyra exclaimed. I wasn't thinking. She paused a moment when she looked to her hands, or rather, through her hands. But she's right. I should never have let you do this to me. But you did, and now we're here, and now we have to deal with it, Trixie stated. Passing blame around helps no pony. Lyra glared at Trixie. You're just saying that because part of the blame goes your way. Trixie threw up her hooves. It wasn't my fault. You said it wasn't my fault. Well, like I said, Bonbon raised a good point. Getting me stuck like this? No, that's not your fault. But we never should have tried it today. I should have let you talk me into it. That's your fault. And you shouldn't have tried. It's not my fault, Trixie exclaimed, eyes wide. You consented. You knew that I was using unfamiliar magic. It's not my fault that this happened to you, and I am trying to fix it. I know you are. Trixie was silent, shifting around uncomfortably as he regarded Lyra. She said, looking around at anything but Lyra, like she had when she first tried to admit to Lyra that she needed her help. Okay, it's my fault. If you don't want to, see me ever again after this, don't want to be my friend, it's not the first time. I'll get it. Lyra blinked. Why would I want that? She asked. Because, look at you! Look what I did to you! Bonbon's right. I should never have cast a spell. You're right to take her side. Whoa, 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 whoa! Lyra interrupted, moving forward. Slow down, Trixie. What do you mean, Bonbon's side? Who said there was a side to this? Trixie blinked. Why wouldn't there be? She asked. Lyra's own eyes went wide at the statement. It's... Wow, Trixie. I thought you were going into politics. Haven't you ever heard of gray areas? Of course I have, Trixie stated indignantly. That's basic. Sometimes ponies in political positions have to do morally questionable things for the good of... Stop! Lyra instructed. That's not what I meant. I mean that there aren't sides to this, Trixie. There's just a whole lot of blame going around to every pony. Mostly you and me, and whoever mislabeled everything in that spell book. Personally, I blame Spell Nexus. Trixie considered that, looking down at her hooves. Oh, she said, making a slight face at the concept. I guess that makes sense. Do you really think I wouldn't want to still be your friend because of this? She waved a hand up and down, indicating her changed body. It was an accident. You didn't mean for it to happen, and I know you're trying to fix it, Trixie. Yet you're trying as hard as you can. Trixie nodded, and the two were silent for a few moments after that, before Lyra decided to break it. So, noise complaint? She asked. Trixie then blinked, then offered a nervous laugh as she began to turn red again, tapping her hose together. I didn't, though, she said, but soundproofing. You should invest in soundproofing if you're going to be so vigorous. Lyra blushed slightly, but was honestly surprised to find how embarrassing Trixie seemed by the whole situation. I'll look into it, she confirmed, picking up the Seaver spellbook and holding it up for Trixie. You should probably get to work on this. Right, Trixie said with a blush, holding the book aloft and staring intently at it. Her horn glowed and her eyes flashed. Okay, memorized. Now I'll just, start looking for other possibilities. Because this one might not work. The last two have it. Shouldn't make assumptions, right? She glanced at Lyra for a moment, and got back to the book. Right? Lyra blinked a few moments, staring intently at Trixie, until something finally clicked in her head. Oh, I get it, she exclaimed. You're a... 40 minutes later, Lyra sat in the middle of yet another magic circle, holding an ice pack to her head as Trixie circled around her, inspecting the magic circle closely and looking for any problems with it, while Bonbon kept a close eye on Trixie, seeing as he still couldn't see Lyra. There's nothing wrong with it, Lyra noted. We have to be sure, Trixie countered. Don't want to make any mistakes. I don't even know what will happen if the circle's wrong. No, I don't mean the magic circle. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being... La 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 la, no pony can hear Lyra! Trixie exclaimed as he skipped away from the circle and threw dust at Lyra. The spell conveniently commanded her to do so anyway. Lyra coughed even as she tossed the ice pack aside, getting ready for the spell. Bonbon looked at Trixie, less like she was the pony responsible for turning her mare friend invisible, and more like she was a member of an exceedingly rare and endangered species. Lyra had told Bonbon of her suspicions, which Trixie's heavy avoidance of the issue were all but confirming. You're still young, she noted, and frankly, I think it's a good thing that you're waiting until no pony can hear Bonbon either! Trixie exclaimed, dumping the reminder of dust over Bonbon's head. The earth pony sputtered and sneezed a few times, but there wasn't much stuff left. We didn't wait, Lyra pointed out to her mare friend as he finished sneezing. Trixie scurried around, sprinkled salted water over Lyra. The unicorn's face was almost entirely pink. Well, Bonbon continued, looking in Lyra's direction. She was still invisible. As Trixie busied herself with setting up lighting candles. That's true, but who else could we have been waiting for? Lyra conceded, a warm feeling in her chest at Bonbon's declaration of love. Trixie, meanwhile, took off her cape. A little wonder given how flushed she seemed to be. Remember our first time? Sorry. Remember Our first time. Bon Bon laughed. You tried to use honey, but it just got stuck and... Alright, messy time now, so you two can shut up! Trixie exclaimed, standing up on her hind legs and waving her forelegs around as she chanted. Bidamo matozo kenwinda mabali, kupa nafasi bora sandi yakuka, mahi kohomba yutuka no fura, nikuta wa fuhara, nisa pandada zote ikukuta no fura, mahari na foto mahari na zuri, mahari na bora zadadi yakua, yifido muda mifivu kama mi na bali nani na nagoto, bidamo matazori kuwinda mabali. There was a brilliant flash, and a surge of magic across Lyra's body. Then, after a moment, it was gone. Lyra looked down to herself and saw pale skin, the odd lumps on her barrel, paws, and in all other respects what she had been turned into. The spell had done nothing. Wait, wasn't she supposed to be invisible? Lyra glanced up to Trixie, who stared back. Both slowly turned their gazes to Bon Bon, and found the cream-colored earth pony staring at Lyra, eyes wide, mouth hanging open, one hoof extendedly. Occasionally, small sounds would escape her throat, but nothing suggested that she was capable of any kind of intelligent thought. At least not until Bon Bon's neck turned with such force that Lyra was surprised it didn't snap, as the earth pony began to bear down Trixie, muscles tensing, nostrils flaring in anger. What did you do to my Lyra? Oh boy. I think Trixie's a dead mare. I'm sorry, people, but I'm guessing join us next week when we're going to have to do stories from the Lyraverse instead.